So you guys keep asking me to do videos on affordable guns and not just expensive 2011s, so I listened to you and did a video on the cheapest 2011 I could find. Because this is the Tisas 1911 Duty B9R. Yes, that's the name. No, it's not really a 1911, so I put it through its paces and saw how it stacks up against one of the hotter 2011s right now, the Kimber 2K11, which has pretty similar specifications, and the review starts now. So I'm David, and this is the Tisas 1911 Duty B9R, which now and forever will be referred to as the B9er because that is a ridiculously long name. This is one of the newly imported ones. Originally, Tisas was using an importer and they dropped them to import directly, and this is one of those. Now, how cheap is the cheapest 2011, you may be asking? Well, I paid $700 for this before shipping, tax, and all that stuff. So $700 sticker price you can find on the street if you are diligent. And that's not a bad price considering what you get. So here's the bad part of the video where I'll objectively review this pistol and then you guys will jump in the comments and say, come on, man, you're being hard on it. It's just a $700 2011. And yes, but it also is going to have some issues, which I'll show you in this video. But you need to have an objective standard as far as evaluating these things. I'm not beating up on the gun. It's a great gun, but there are some things you're gonna want to know about it. If this isn't your first video, consider subscribing. And if you think you're subscribed, go ahead and check because YouTube, you know, that's what they do. Since nobody likes to read anymore, I'm going to tell you the specifications, and actually it doesn't matter if you like to read because their website is currently in transition. As I checked the web to try and find out more information about this pistol, you can only go to the Tisas parent website, and that doesn't really have much information on this, so we're all kind of guessing. So what the B9er is a 5-inch bull-barreled steel frame, polymer gripped ambi 2011 style pistol. I say ambi because the safeties are ambi. The mag catch is not ambi, nor is the slide stop because 2011. You might be thinking, looking at this, that is a kissing cousin with the Mac DS9 Duty. And you'd be absolutely right, but more on that in a bit. The slide is direct cut for an RMSC optic with a pretty low cut that allows the slightly taller iron sights to co-witness through an RMSC optic. The guide rod is hollow and needs a tool to remove. The trigger is a medium, kind of semi-flat trigger. It's actually a much better trigger than was on the Mac DS9 that we looked at earlier. And the trigger pull quality is decent for a 2011, or in striker terms, it's better than any striker fired pistol trigger. Yes, even those ones, the Walters and Canics of the world, because the mighty 1911 sliding trigger is the nicest trigger system. And the pull weight on mine is registering right at 4 pounds, 10 ounces on a Lyman digital scale. The finish isn't listed anywhere on the website that I could find, but I'm going to just assume that the Tisas is using the same finish as the Mac, which is listed as a QPQ Tinifer finish, which is quench, polish, quince, and it's like a surface treatment. Seems to be reasonably tough, and it doesn't really mark or scratch or anything like that. Speaking of the fit and finish, the fit is an assembled gun. What that means is that they pull the parts right off the line, get them finished, and then slap them together. There's no like hand fitting that goes on, and as a result, there's quite a bit of wiggle that you see on the slide to frame. The barrel is appropriately fit where it doesn't seem to be moving. So it's kind of loose as far as 2011s go, which are generally high-end guns, but it would be way tighter than any of the striker guns that you would pick up and mess with. Now, there are a couple little things about the gun that are in the fit bit. The first is that the barrel is kind of fit weird. And like that, what I mean by that is you kind of push on it and the barrel doesn't immediately unlock. It takes a little bit more force and then it drops out and unlocks. Then when you're at the rear of the stroke, the slide forward comes up and hits the disconnector, and you can feel that right there. It doesn't affect the way the gun shoots in any way, but it's, you know, just something you'll notice if you're trying to mess with it in like the gun store counter or a safe area. Since that doesn't really affect the function of the gun, then, you know, won't cry too hard about it. But what will affect the function of the gun is the erratic ejection, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. First, comparing the B9er against the DS9 Duty from Military Armament Corps. Basically, they're the same guns. The slide serrations are very similar, not quite the same, but very, very similar schemes. There are no roll marks on either slide, which I think is awesome. It looks really cool. Aside from the beaver tail being shorter on the B9er, the Mac has a elongated beaver tail. The trigger on the Mac is a long trigger, whereas you get a kind of semi-flat medium trigger on this. The other difference being is that the Mac takes a full-size optic plate, which is awesome. You can use full-size optics, and it's got an aluminum magwell. Another difference, not good for the Mac, is that the Mac has the slipperiest grip I have ever felt on a 2011. The Tisas grip is much, much nicer, and it's just kind of a different style of texture using that same kind of slippery polymer. So the price differential in 2026, kind of early Q2, is the Mac is selling for about 100, 150 bucks more than the B9R, but the B9R's grip is much better. I would probably prefer the B9R, even though I can't use full-size optics. So how is the gun's accuracy? I wish I could tell you definitively, but I cannot, because I shot the groups at my fancy indoor gun club, and the Siley Cat SRS-6 Pro #1 is a 6 MOA dot, but #2, indoor gun clubs are dark. I have an astigmatism, and the minimal setting on the dot is too bright, so it's kind of aggravating my astigmatism. So I know the gun is capable of better than what I could deliver. It's just my ability to aim it in that kind of darker condition wasn't great, but there you go. So what was all that stuff about the erratic ejection? So happy you asked, I'll show you.
So this isn't YouTube cool guy footage. This is just trying to understand how the brass is ejecting from this gun, because it looks like it's, like I can't even see, so I'm taking this footage to see. That was good. That was all right. That was kind of high, but all right. That was not good. That was terrible. That was okay. That was okay. Good. That was okay. That was terrible. Okay. That was okay. Okay. That was okay. So the ejection, I would say that, I don't know, I'll put the percentage on the screen of what that was, but the extraction and ejection of the gun aren't the greatest. It hasn't caused any issues yet, but I bet if I was using a cantilever optic that hung over the breech face, that I could, on those rounds that are ejecting straight up, it would probably catch those and trap them as the slide is closing. But because I'm not using one of those, and you can't really use those because it's only cut for the RMSC optics footprint. So, you know, something to keep an eye on.
Now, is that a huge issue? Did it cause me any problems at the range? No, it didn't really cause me any problems at the range. Didn't have any malfunctions with the pistol. However, if I was using a full-size optic and I adapted it to like an SRO or something like that, that cowl would hang over the breech face and trap that brass coming straight up in between the top of the barrel and the optic. I've seen it happen on other guns. Another small issue that I encountered with the gun is that it didn't seem to lock back with some of the mags. I had it happen once on a Duramag, and I had it happen once on the Tisas stamped mags that ship with the gun.
That one doesn't lock back. What is that? That's the Tisas mags. Huh. Lock back on the Metcar one round early.
If you remember back in the Mac video, I had that problem with the Mac as well. So how does the B9R stand up against the 2K11 Target, which is selling on the street for about $2,100, $2,200 now, which is roughly 3 times the price of this bad boy? Well, first and foremost, the country of origin matters. The Kimber is built in the United States, whereas this is built in Turkey, which is known well for its value-forward guns. So the price is going to be lower on a Turkish gun than American. But the 2K11 is going to come with an aluminum grip module with much better grip. It's got an aluminum magwell. The trigger pull weight on the 2K11 is going to be about 1.5 pounds lighter than what came on the Tisas. The 2K11 is going to ship with an optic plate system for using full-sized optics. The guide rod is going to be a toolless guide rod, which makes maintenance on the gun a lot easier. The finish on the slide is a PVD finish, and the finish on the barrel and frame and small parts is DLC, which is arguably a better finish. Now, the Kimber does come with metal injection molded parts, which some people are going to turn up a nose at, but so far in my shooting of the Kimbers, and I've got one gun about touching 10,000 rounds through it, the parts seem to hold up. I haven't had any issues yet with the parts failing.
So because the B9R Duty has a short dust cover, short rail, obviously the 2K11 also features a short rail, but the 2K11 costs approximately $3.25 of the B9R. So we're just gonna shoot them side to side. I can tell you the fit and finish and feel of the guns, the Kimber feels a bit nicer, and I'll run through in the studio what sort of those differences are. Is the Kimber going to be 3 times as good as the B9R? Absolutely not. Diminishing returns has always been a thing. The Kimber is going to have some nice to have features, but as far as just the shooting is concerned, let's see. That one doesn't lock back. What is that? That's the Tisas mag. So that's the one that ships with the gun, doesn't lock back in the gun. So, all right, the Kimber going after it as well. So the grip is nicer. It doesn't move around as much as this kind of slick grip from there, although the grip on the Tisas isn't bad. The trigger is nicer. This, about 1.5 pounds lighter out of the box on the Kimber. This is a completely stock 2K11. And I mean, the nice to have stuff, as we said, but the way the gun moves, the way the gun shoots, I would say 95% of the way there as far as how it feels and shoots. So not bad considering what you spend on one of these bad boys.
Looking at the gun's recoil in slow motion, because the Kimber trigger is set up better, I was able to run the trigger a little bit faster natively. It's also my competition gun, so I shoot it better. Is the Kimber a better gun on paper? Absolutely. Is it 3 times as good? Probably not, because diminishing returns are a thing. Now, I've done a video where I took an Alpha Foxtrot Romulus and I kind of elevated it to compete with more spendy guns using premium parts. This gun would fall into that category as well. You could check out that video and learn more about it. But the guns weigh nearly the same, so they shoot roughly the same. So there it is. Is the gun perfect out of the box? Absolutely not. It's pretty good though. It's actually quite great. I think it's probably the best gun you can buy for the $700 price tag as far as a range toy is concerned. Is it duty rated? I would say probably not, due to the undersized optic and the issue with the extractor ejector. I think that if you used a smaller enclosed optic like the EPS or something, you could probably be okay with it if you address the ejector extractor issue. Would it be my first pick for duty gun? Still no. Is the gun better than the Mac? Absolutely. The grip module on this one is really, really bad, and you can probably get the magwell for this one and be generally pretty happy. Everything else is pretty good. You could probably adjust the trigger to get it to be a, more inspiring trigger than what it comes out of the box, but even still, the grip on the Mac is just really not good. Would the B9R be a good starting point to elevate into a built up budget 2011? It certainly could be. It absolutely could be. If you want to see more about doing just that, you can check out the video I mentioned here about elevating an Alpha Foxtrot Romulus.